A woman snapped her fingers at me and barked. I don't wait in lines, check me out now. When I refused, she screamed. I'm reporting you to corporate. My manager stepped in, looked at her receipt, and smiled. You should, because you're using a stolen card. I work as a cashier at a bustling supermarket in downtown Chicago. It's not the most glamorous job, but it pays the bills and keeps me on my feet. Over the years, I've encountered all sorts of customers, some pleasant, some not so much. But nothing could have prepared me for the encounter I had last Tuesday. It was around 5 p.m., the peak of our evening rush. The store buzzed with activity as shoppers weaved through aisles, carts filled to the brim. I was stationed at Register 3, scanning items as quickly as possible to keep the line moving. That's when she appeared. A woman in her mid-40s, dressed in a tailored navy blue suit, strode up to my register. She had an air of entitlement that was hard to miss. Without acknowledging the line of customers waiting patiently, she snapped her fingers in my direction and barked. I don't wait in lines, check me out now. I was taken aback. Ma'am, I'd be happy to assist you after these customers, I replied, gesturing to the line ahead of her. Her face turned a shade redder. Do you know who I am? I have an important meeting to attend. I can't waste time standing in line. I understand, ma'am, I said, maintaining my composure. But these customers have been waiting. I assure you, the line is moving as quickly as possible. She huffed, crossing her arms. This is unacceptable. I'm reporting you to corporate. Before I could respond, she stormed off, pulling out her phone. I exchanged glances with the elderly gentleman I was assisting. He gave me a sympathetic smile and a slight shake of his head. A few minutes later, as I continued scanning items, I noticed my manager, Mr. Reynolds, approaching with the woman in tow. Mr. Reynolds was a tall man in his 50s, known for his calm demeanor and fair judgment. Is there a problem here? He asked, looking between the woman and me. Yes, she interjected before I could speak. Your employee refused to assist me. I demand action. Mr. Reynolds turned to me. Is that true? I nodded. She wanted to skip the line. I explained that other customers were ahead of her. Mr. Reynolds looked thoughtful. Ma'am, may I see your receipt? She hesitated but handed it over. He examined it closely, then his eyes narrowed. Ma'am, this receipt is from a purchase made earlier today with a credit card ending in 5678. Is that correct? She nodded, her confidence faltering slightly. Yes, why? Mr. Reynolds sighed. That card was reported stolen this morning. The color drained from her face. That's absurd. I have no idea what you're talking about. Mr. Reynolds signaled to our security officer, who had been observing from a distance. We'll need to hold you here until the authorities arrive. Panic flashed in her eyes. This is a misunderstanding. I found that card in the parking lot and intended to return it. The security officer stepped forward. Ma'am, please come with me. As she was escorted to the back office, the customers in line murmured among themselves, some shaking their heads in disbelief. I resumed scanning items, my hands slightly trembling from the adrenaline. The elderly gentleman I was assisting earlier leaned in and whispered. You handled that well, young man. I offered a weak smile. Thank you, sir. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Later, I learned that the woman had been taken into custody for credit card fraud. Apparently, she had a history of similar offenses. This experience taught me a valuable lesson about standing my ground and treating all customers fairly, regardless of their demeanor. You never truly know someone's intentions, and it's essential to remain vigilant and composed in the face of adversity. Working in retail exposes you to the vast spectrum of human behavior. While most interactions are routine, some leave an indelible mark, reminding you of the importance of integrity and the unpredictable nature of people. After she got dragged into the back office, I thought that would be the end of it. Just another crazy moment in retail to laugh about later. But the story didn't end there. About 10 minutes after she was taken away, one of the assistant managers, Carla, came up to me. She looked stressed. Carla's usually cool with everything, but she had this stiff way of walking that meant something wasn't right. You need to come to the office, she said, low voice. Did I do something wrong? I asked, nervous. No, but you're part of this now. I left my register with a backup cashier and followed her. As soon as I stepped into the office, I saw her. The woman. Sitting there like nothing had happened, legs crossed, calm now. But not calm like everything was fine. Calm like she had something up her sleeve. Detective Klein was in there too. He's a local cop who handles fraud cases around the area, and we all know him. He nodded at me. Can you confirm this is the woman who tried to use the stolen card? He asked. Yes, I said. She demanded to be checked out immediately. Then started yelling about corporate when I didn't. She looked right at me and smirked. He's lying. I almost laughed. Excuse me? He's making this up, she said. I bought my groceries fair and square. He refused to help me because he doesn't like dealing with women in business suits. That's what this is really about. I was floored. She was flipping the whole situation. Carla raised an eyebrow. Even Detective Klein looked surprised. That's not what happened, I said, keeping my voice calm. She tried to jump the line, snapped her fingers at me, and when I told her she'd have to wait, she threw a fit. Do you have any witnesses? She asked, now trying to sound polite, like she was the reasonable one. Half the line saw it. I said. There's security footage too. She stiffened for a second. Just a twitch. Barely noticeable. Detective Klein stood up. We'll pull the footage. If it matches what he says, and the card matches the one reported stolen, this gets turned over to the DA. I was told I could go back to my register. The rest of my shift was quiet, but my head was spinning. The next morning, I walked into work, and Carla pulled me aside again. She's out, she said. What? She posted bail. Her lawyer made a big deal out of the footage not showing the card swiped clearly. The receipt has her signature, but they're claiming she had permission to use the card. Are you serious? Carla nodded. It's worse. Her lawyer filed a complaint against you. Says you discriminated against her and caused emotional distress. I just stared at her. My mouth literally fell open. She's suing me? No, not yet. But she filed a formal complaint. We have to do an internal review. HR's coming next week. I wanted to throw something. I had done everything by the book. Now this woman was flipping it on me, trying to drag me down with her. Later that day, I got a text from one of the other cashiers, Ramon. He sent me a screenshot from Facebook. Her name was Meredith Rowe. She had a business page with thousands of followers. Some kind of life coach or executive success consultant. There was a photo of her with a bunch of motivational quotes underneath. But then I saw the real twist. Ramon had found a thread in a local community group. People were posting screenshots of Meredith allegedly scamming folks, taking deposits for seminars that never happened, using fake testimonials, even pretending to be certified in things she wasn't. That's when things started clicking. This wasn't just some rude woman who got caught up in something. She was a full-blown con artist. She knew how to play the system, twist stories, and make herself look like the victim. I printed out everything I could find. Sent it all to Carla. Sent it to Detective Klein too. Things weren't over. She wanted a war. Fine. She was going to get one. A few days later, I was called into the store office again. Carla looked tense, more than before. She shut the door and pulled the blinds closed. She's escalated it, she said. HR wants you suspended until the review is over. I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. They said it's standard protocol now. Meredith's complaint includes claims of discrimination, verbal aggression, and even physical intimidation. I didn't even get close to her. I snapped. I never touched her, never even raised my voice. Carla sighed. I know. But she's smart. She's playing the system, and now it's corporate's hands. So just like that I was out. Sent home. No hours, no pay, and HR breathing down my neck for something I didn't do. But here's where it gets wild. That night, I got a message request on Instagram. It was from someone named Angela. The message just said, "Are you the cashier from the Meredith Rowe incident?" I replied, "Yes." "Who's asking?" She wrote back immediately. "She scammed my sister. She pretended to be a finance mentor, took $4,000, and ghosted her." My heart started racing. Angela wasn't alone. She added me to a private Facebook group. Victims of Meredith Rowe. There were more than 30 people. All with different stories. Some paid for coaching sessions that never happened. Some were promised speaking opportunities. One guy said she pretended to invest in his startup and stole his business contacts. It was a whole web of fake names, burner emails, and ghost phone numbers. Then someone in the group, Jenna, I think, posted something that chilled me. She has a connection at a background check company. I think she's pulling employee records. She's done this before. Gets people fired when they challenge her. My stomach dropped. Was that why her story sounded so believable? Did she already know enough about me to make her lies stick? Ramon texted me again that night. "Bro. She was in the store today." "You're kidding." "She came in with a guy. Said she was gathering evidence." She tried to ask for security footage. Now I was done playing defense. I took all the posts from the victims group. I started compiling dates, screenshots, names, emails, anything I could use. I made a document and sent it to Carla, Detective Klein, and the store's HR. I even dropped it anonymously to a local news tip line. But I wanted more. I started digging deeper. I searched every business license registered under the name Meredith Rowe. Some were expired. Some had slightly altered spellings. I found addresses she'd used as mailing locations, mostly UPS stores and empty office suites. Then I struck gold. One of the addresses matched an old rental listing. An apartment in Lincoln Park. I found the landlord's number in a cached copy of the ad. I called him. She lived there for 3 months. He told me. Left in the middle of the night. Owed rent. The last month's check bounced. I asked if he ever saw her with anyone. Always different men. Seemed shady. Lots of short stays, quick visits. It just kept getting messy. Meanwhile, HR called me back in. The internal review was wrapping up. They had no proof I'd done anything wrong, but the higher-ups still looked nervous. They told me to stay quiet on social media and let the legal process handle it. I nodded and smiled. But I wasn't staying quiet. I got in touch with one of the reporters from WGN News, Samira Khan. She was known for going after con artists and shady influencers. I sent her everything. She asked to meet. We met at a coffee shop in the Loop. I brought a folder with every printout, screenshot, and contact info I'd gathered. She took it all in and nodded slowly. "This woman's a professional liar," she said. "I'm going to blow this open." And right as I was about to leave, she dropped her own twist. She tried to pitch herself to our network 2 months ago. Wanted to be a TV success coach. We passed because something felt off. This wasn't just a scammer. This was someone who wanted fame, power, control, and she was willing to destroy anyone who got in the way. She came at me with a fake story, tried to take my job, my name, my record. Now the truth was coming for her. The WGN story dropped 2 weeks later. It wasn't just a segment. It was a full-on exposé. Samira Khan had dug up everything. Her crew tracked down old landlords, fake business partners, even former friends of Meredith. The piece aired during prime time. They called it The Success Scam, The Rise and Fall of Meredith Rowe. They had video of Meredith giving fake seminars in rented hotel ballrooms. Testimonies from over a dozen people she had conned. A voice recording where she laughed about manipulating weak-minded followers. And most damning, surveillance footage from our store, clear audio and all, of her snapping her fingers, yelling, and then trying to swipe a stolen card. And there I was, in uniform, in the clip. Just doing my job. Calm, professional, exactly how I remembered it. It went viral. Overnight, the story spread like wildfire. Meredith deleted all her social media. Her business site went down. Her inspirational quote posts were replaced by threads of furious former clients. That morning, I went back to work. As soon as I walked in, Carla greeted me with a hug. "You were right," she said. "We all saw it now." Corporate sent me a formal apology. Said I'd been vindicated and wrongly suspended. They offered me a bonus for the stress I endured. It was nice. But what mattered more was that I had my name back. Later that afternoon, Meredith came in. Yeah. She actually showed up. She looked rough. Makeup barely holding together, eyes hidden behind giant sunglasses. She walked right up to my register, ignoring the 3 customers already in line. "I need to talk to you," she said. The store went quiet. People were already filming. I stayed calm. "You can wait in line like everyone else." "No," she snapped, voice cracking. "You need to hear me out." "Why?" I asked. "So you can twist it again?" She took off her glasses. Her eyes were bloodshot. "I messed up," she whispered. "I thought I could control the story. I thought I could fix it before it got bad." Someone from behind her said, "You tried to ruin him." It was Ramon. He had stepped out from behind the bakery counter. People were gathering. Phones out. Watching. Meredith turned, trying to keep her voice low. "I didn't mean for it to go that far." I panicked. "No," I said. "You didn't panic. You lied. You attacked me because you didn't get your way. You tried to get me fired for doing my job." She looked down. For once, she didn't have a comeback. "I've lost everything," she said. "My business, my name. I've got lawsuits coming from everywhere." "You earned it," said Carla, stepping forward. Meredith looked at me. "I'm sorry." I didn't say anything. I didn't nod. I just kept scanning the next customer's items. She stood there for a second longer. Then walked out. That was it. No dramatic screaming. No last-ditch scheme. Just silence and cameras following her exit. After she left, people clapped. One woman said, "Good for you." Another older guy muttered, "About time someone like her got what's coming." It felt surreal. Like I'd just survived a storm no one believed was real, until the flood hit. The next few days were weird. Strangers came and saying they saw me on TV. A few handed me gift cards. One lady brought cookies. I smiled and nodded and thanked them. But part of me still felt off. I'd nearly lost my job. My name. All because someone decided they were above the rules. And yet, I also felt stronger. Like I'd passed through fire and came out steel. Meredith destroyed a lot of people. She almost destroyed me. But in the end, her lies caught up to her. And me? I'm still behind that register. Still scanning groceries. Still tired. But now people look at me differently. Like they know I stood my ground when it mattered. I guess the biggest lesson is this: sometimes being quiet and doing the right thing isn't enough. Sometimes you have to speak up, even when it's scary, even when no one believes you. Because truth doesn't scream. It just waits. And then it crushes the lies.